Man, oh man, oh man. We done watched a video. It's one of them types of videos that it drives you to drink, man. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Are you ready, girl? Are you ready? She's ready. Okay, so in case you weren't aware, IGN released a review of the latest Transformers movie, Transformers 1. And I'm not going to tell you what the rating is yet. What they rated it, I'm not going to tell you it yet. I'm not going to tell you. Just understand that they gave the Marvels, the one that came out last year, the Marvels, they gave that an 8 out of 10. Now, you and me, we both know that movie is not an 8 out of 10. It's not even a 6 out of 10. It's not even a 4 out of 10. It's a 2 out of 10 purely because the scene of the cats eating everybody was so fucking crazy and funny that I lost calories sweating from laughing at that scene. So, understand, 8 out of 10 for the Marvels. Transformers 1. What did they give Transformers 1?
Look, that's Starscream and your Shockwave and Soundwave.
Enough.
A 5 out of 10. Now, a spoiler alert, despite the trailers for this movie, Transformers 1 was phenomenal. Understand what I'm about to say here. As someone who loved Dark of the Moon despite its flaws, it easily clears all of the Michael Bay movies, no diff. It clears them easily. It's better than all the Michael Bay movies, and I'm about to say something hot. It's a very hot take. This gets really close to dethroning the original 86 movie. I am not joking. Transformers 1 is a phenomenal movie, and that's all I can say without spoiling anything. Just go see it. Just go see it. Forget about the trailers. The trailers mismarketed this movie, all right? Because the trailers, here's my little review. The trailers have you thinking it's like a super, like, goofy, like, silly, Despicable Me movie. It's not. It's not. There is a scene that Megatron has towards, like, the midway point, maybe, like, at the beginning of Act 2, where Brian Tyree Henry, he just steals the show. He has this line delivery that is so intense that you kind of wonder how it got into a PG-rated movie. Just watch the movie. Forget about the trailers. Fuck them trailers. Them trailers did a horrible job of selling this movie. Paramount, you need to fire those people. Let's move on. IGN... Clearly, I don't know if they watched the same movie or they were asking for something else. I don't know what they were doing. But this review of Transformers 1 is just the most butt-fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard. In terms of, like, a big-budget, like, review outlet reviewing a movie. I don't know what they were expecting going into this. Like, if you look at the like to dislike ratio, we're looking at 1.1 thousand likes to 9.6 thousand dislikes. Guess which one I clicked? All right. So I've had my dinner for tonight. My dog has eaten as well. She has eaten. She is resting. So we're gonna, man, this fucking review sucks. Let's get it over with.
We could have built the future together.
I don't think so.
We're living in a renaissance for animated films based on toys and comics that manage to both dazzle and dig deeper.
Okay. I know it's a nitpick. I'm gonna be real with you. It's something that bothers me. I don't know what it is about review outlets using all this flowery prose and really just overly, like, pretty language to describe stuff like dazzling. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. It just sounds fruity, and I don't like it. But let's keep moving.
The Spider-Verse films and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem recently reinvigorated their respective heroes with both visual and narrative panache that was pitched at and landed with longtime fans and newcomers alike.
I didn't see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I don't know if it was good. But Into the Spider-Verse, the first one, pretty decent movie. Across the Spider-Verse, let's not talk about that one.
In that way, Transformers 1, which has been in development since around the time the first Spider-Verse movie was announced.
I don't know if that's true, actually. Yeah, no, that's not true. It says on this Wikipedia page that Spider-Verse was initially not necessarily announced, but they were in talks of making it back in 2014. Transformers 1 was in talks of being made around 2017 when they had that writer's room during The Last Night, or during the production of The Last Night. And then the Spider-Verse film, the first one, was announced in 2015. So there was like a 2-year gap between Spider-Verse and Transformers 1 being announced. I don't think Transformers 1 was even announced in 2017, but they started talking. My point being is that they are not even close to being like, one was announced in 2015, the other was announced in like 2020. Like, I don't know why you said that, but you said it.
Feels late to the party and far less self-assured.
I kind of disagree with that. This is a movie that is very confident in what it is. Like, Transformers 1 is very confident that it nailed what it did. It is very confident. There are no please clap, please laugh moments. It's very confident.
The obvious standout from that impressive roster is Henry's D16.
Which I do agree. Brian Tyree Henry did a fantastic job, a phenomenal job voicing D16/Megatron. He was the one aspect of the cast that I was not sold on when I first heard it, the casting. But after watching the movie, I realized he wasn't really even channeling Frank Welker. He was channeling, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I'm going to guess Fred Tatasciore, I believe is what his last name is. And he voiced Megatron in the High Moon Studios games. And you can kind of hear that influence in the movie.
Whose pain and grievance with the system on the Transformers' home planet of Cybertron pushes him down his dark path towards becoming the villainous Megatron.
That's not even accurate. Because what happened in the movie is that Megatron, or rather D16, the reason why he goes down this path is not because the system is corrupt, but because his entire life was a lie. Everything he knew about his system was a lie. Finding out that he was working for no good reason. When he was told, when he was brought online, that they were mining Energon to keep the planet alive, and then he finds out they weren't mining Energon for the sake of their race. They were mining Energon to appease the Quintessence, their race's mortal enemy. And Sentinel Prime was just playing God, basically. He wasn't on the surface like trying to help people. He was playing God. So D16 gets disenfranchised, disaffected, because the entire system was a lie. And a person he looked up to, one of the people he looked up to, lied straight to his face. Because they do have a conversation earlier in the movie where Sentinel and D16 have a conversation, and realizing that he was lied to, like, straight to his face, yeah, that's what did Megatron in.
Henry's conviction and emotional vulnerability regularly steals scenes and frequently represents the only real humanity Transformers 1 has to offer, which, for the record, is even more important when there are no actual humans around.
Oh my god. This is going to be a problem that I'm going to address later, because he brings this human aspect up again later, but we're going to address that later. But the problem I have with this is because this is just not even true. There's a lot of character work done with many of the characters in this movie. The Starscream in this movie, despite him only being in about I'd say 15 minutes of this movie, it's probably the most accurate Starscream we've seen on the big screen. For instance, there's this scene where Starscream and the High Guard is what the Decepticons are before they become the Decepticons, basically. The High Guard have captured the 4 main characters, and push comes to shove, D16 and Starscream get into a little bit of a scrap, right? And, if you know Starscream, he's not one to, do fisticuffs and actually fight you one-on-one, right? But the thing is that you look around Starscream and D16's fight, and Starscream is surrounded by his lackeys. It's 100% in line with who Starscream is. He's not gonna fight you if there's a chance that he could lose. Because the moment Starscream gets his ass whooped, he's just gonna tell his men to come whoop your ass for him. He literally does this in the Fall of Cybertron game. On top of that, there's also characters like B-127 or Bumblebee, which they don't call him Bumblebee in this movie. Like, he's talkative and kind of like, for lack of a better term, kind of tismy, because he didn't have any friends for like who knows how long, for how many years or cycles in this movie. We don't know how long he's been down in the sub levels, alone with no friends. So, someone like that would grow to just be not antisocial, but lack social skills, where he doesn't get that, like, he's talking entirely too much. He doesn't know that. He hasn't had any friends before. He hasn't spoken to anybody. And then you get the likes of like Elita-One. I'm going to save Elita-One because they do her dirty in this review.
The script doesn't do D16's arc many favors, with his nuanced feelings about Cybertron's storied defender Sentinel Prime, played by John Hamm, completely flattened out by a plot that's too busy juggling a fetch quest and a razor-thin political conspiracy to reliably keep that narrative train on the tracks.
What? A razor-thin political conspiracy. And a fetch quest? What do you mean a fetch quest? There was no fetch quest. They didn't fetch anything. Like, they went to go find... They did... Okay, so here's what happened in the movie. At one point, Orion Pax, D16, and B-127 come across this map in the sublevels that may lead them to the Matrix of Leadership, right? So they think if we get the Matrix of Leadership, we can bring it to Sentinel, and then we can stop working in the fucking mines like slaves, right? But they don't think they're slaves because they think they're actually, doing good because, they at this point, they don't realize the system is a lie yet. So they go to the surface with Elita, and they find out the Matrix isn't there, but they find out the truth of what actually happened and why their entire system is a lie, right? And then their goal after that is to take the evidence of this event, which is in this little chit that, like, Orion, not Orion, what's his name? Alpha Trion gives them, and is to take it to Cybertron, or take it to Iacon, and reveal the truth to the citizens of Iacon. Nowhere in there is there a fetch quest. All right? Just because, and the thing is that the problem I also have with this is that this implies that a fetch quest in and of itself is bad. It's not. When a good half of phases 1 through 3 of the MCU are fetch quests for the Infinity Stones. Like, half of those movies are about getting those stones. And a good chunk of them are great movies. And we're not done with this, by the way. The misrepresentation of what happens in this movie and the plot devices that he talks about, which I could go on a tangent about it, but we'll get to it.
All that Cybertron lore and backstory can be interesting at times, but none of it is covered with enough depth or novelty to feel fresh.
I don't know what you're expecting from this movie. It's an hour and 45 minutes. How much lore do you need? You have to draw the fine line between lore and actual fucking story. You're talking about an hour and 45 minutes. Why do you want the entire lexicon of Bloodborne lore in a 1 hour and 45 minute movie? This movie gives you enough lore to understand what's going on, and that's it. That's all you need. You don't need any like things you don't fucking need. We don't need to know who Unicron is. That's not relevant to this movie. We don't need to know like anything about like the 13 Primes, to be completely honest. They're in this movie, but they only are they're really only there to like be the figure that the Cybertronians look up to as those mythological beings that, like, they're heroes, they're myths, they're legends, and their death at the hands of Sentinel is the thing that causes them to want, it's the motivation for them to take down Sentinel. One of like 3 motivations to take down Sentinel. Or one of 3 reasons, rather, to take down Sentinel. The first being that they killed the Primes. He killed the Primes. He sided with the Quintessens who they were at war with. And then, which is honestly like the most evil thing Sentinel Prime has ever done, is that he ripped the T-cogs, the organs that Transformers need in order to transform. He ripped them out of newborn Cybertronians. Selectively. Some of them got to keep their T-cogs. Others didn't. I don't know how much more lore you need for this movie, to be completely honest.
Transformers 1 is designed to be accessible to audiences with all levels of familiarity with the robots in disguise.
So my question is, if you understand that to be the concept behind this movie, why are you asking for more lore? That doesn't make any fucking sense, my guy. That makes zero sense. If you understand that this is supposed to be an entry point into the franchise, why are you expecting, like, the fucking Book of Primus? Like the Covenant of Primus, or the Aligned Continuity Bible in a 1 hour and 45-minute movie. Shit. It's like going into Mass Effect 3 expecting Mass Effect 1 and 2 to also be in that game. I don't know what the fuck you're expecting here.
But for anyone who paid attention to Michael Bay's first 3 live-action Transformers films, and Bay is a producer here, you'll note, the movie throws warning flags by choosing MacGuffins that render almost every turn of the story a foregone conclusion.
Which is the smaller point, foregone conclusion, yeah, that was the entire marketing pitch behind this movie, was that you get to see how Optimus and Megatron end up being enemies. That was the whole reason this movie existed. So yes, it's a foregone conclusion. What kind of tismy complaint is that? 2, you don't know what a MacGuffin is. All right? Here's the thing. A MacGuffin is an item in which, as a matter of fact, let's just look it up so I can read it to you. A MacGuffin, an object, event, or character in a film or story that serves to set and keep the plot in motion despite usually lacking intrinsic importance. Intrinsic importance. One more time for the people in the back. One more time. Intrinsic importance. Do you understand what that means? It means that a MacGuffin is not something that the characters go after that is important to the plot. A MacGuffin is an item that, once you remove it from the plot, it has nothing to do with anything. And the 2 candidates they would say are the MacGuffins are the evidence that Alpha Trion gives, which that's not a MacGuffin, and the Matrix of Leadership, which is also not a MacGuffin, because the entire second act is surrounding this evidence and making sure it gets back to Icon. Right? Yeah, the evidence does get destroyed, but it is important. It's important to the plot. Because they needed to get back to Icon, and then when it gets destroyed, they're like, well, shit, we're kind of out of luck now. Nobody's going to believe us. And then the Matrix of Leadership is not a MacGuffin either, because the movie isn't about getting it. For like half of the movie is not about getting the Matrix of Leadership. When it's brought into the movie, it was given to Optimus and making him a prime so that he could bring back Cybertron into the golden age where the rivers of Energon flow freely and the people don't have to mine anymore for Energon. Those are both incredibly plot relevant devices. Like, for example, an example of a MacGuffin is the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. They open the briefcase, and you never get to see what's in it. You never know why it's important. Like, it doesn't tie to any character it doesn't tie to any character motivations. It's just get the briefcase because I said so. Like, people throw around the word MacGuffin a little too generously. Because the truth is, none of the Transformers movies have MacGuffins. Yeah, I said it. None of them have MacGuffins. Because the difference between, I'm going to say this one more time. The difference between a MacGuffin and a plot device is that a MacGuffin doesn't mean anything. It's just there as a goal that just exists. Them getting the thing doesn't change anything.
Chris Hemsworth's Orion Pax begins the story quite far from the Optimus Prime we know he'll become, with little direction or motivation to get him there.
Whoa, run that back, wait a minute.
Chris Hemsworth's Orion Pax begins the story quite far from the Optimus Prime we know he'll become, with little direction or motivation to get him there.
Oh my god, okay. Optimus Prime starts as Orion Pax, right? And at the beginning of the movie, you can kind of see where the Optimus we know comes from. And it comes from his belief that people should be free. People should be free to seek information. People should be free to choose their path. People should be free to be more than what they've been told they are. Which is why Orion Pax as a miner keeps getting into trouble, because he wants to be more than a miner. And he believes that people should be free to choose to do whatever they want, instead of being forced in this caste system to be a miner or a recycler or a trash bot or whatever, right? So to say that he just doesn't have any motivation to become Optimus Prime is just objectively false. Especially if you were paying attention to the movie, and there's a part in the movie where Optimus, like Orion, I'd say there's 3 parts. There's a part where there's Orion, then there's a part where there's Optimus, and then there's a part where there's Optimus Prime. If you play the High Moon Studio games, you understand why I say just Optimus. The part where he's like Optimus is when he's giving his speech to his fellow miners, where he talks about how everyone should have the freedom to choose what they want to do. And it's his way, it's his beginning of becoming Optimus Prime, while D16 has his own beginning, which we will get to later, but he has his own beginning where he starts to turn into Megatron. But to say that Orion has no reason to become Optimus, and there's no path that's obviously there, bright as day, black as night, just shows you weren't paying the fuck attention to the movie.
It may not surprise you to hear that transformation is a major theme here, but it's something that Transformers 1 communicates by telling us, not showing us or making us feel it.
Well, that's incorrect. Like, not only do the characters physically start changing, especially Megatron, because as the movie goes on, D16, his appearance starts to warp throughout the movie. His eyes go from yellow to orange to red, like his shoulders and like his body starts getting bulkier. In the scene where he fights Starscream, like his fusion cannon like forms on his arm in a fit of rage, right? And you're telling me that like just from that alone, that the theme of transformation is just not there? And then like Megatron's descent from D16 to like Megatron, where he goes from like almost idolizing Sentinel Prime and then saying, I just want to kill this dude. Right? And he wants to kill Sentinel for like honestly pretty valid reasons. Right? But then he goes from, I want to kill this guy because it's the right thing to do, to I'm going to rule over everybody because I'm the only person that I can trust. I can't trust any of the primes. I can trust myself, though. Can you not do that? Hey. Hush that. That was loud. I don't appreciate that. Lay down. Oh. You have no idea how loud that was. Oh, my goodness. I done fucking lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. Okay. So Optimus transforms by starting out as this reckless, like, freedom-seeking rebel, right? Where he doesn't really care about the consequences of his actions. But after a certain point, he realizes that his actions do have consequences. And Elita gives him like this pep talk where she basically tells him to harness his ability to see the best in people and listen to his gut, but also be sensible, you know? And by the end of the movie, he learns how to have that core belief of freedom while also being responsible and understanding that his actions have consequences, which is why it leads up to the part where at the end of the movie where he says, we can't kill Sentinel. We can't start a new chapter in Iacon with an execution, because he's understanding that that action is going to have far-reaching consequences, something that he doesn't even acknowledge at the beginning of the movie, that breaking into the archives would have consequences. But by the end of the movie, he acknowledges, hey, this could have serious consequences. Don't do this. Right? So to say that these characters don't transform is just objectively incorrect yet again.
Keegan-Michael Key's B-127, Bumblebee as we know him, and Badassatron as you will definitely not call him, even though he really wants it.
That's kind of the joke, is that he wants people to call him Badassatron, but we're not going to. That's kind of the joke.
does score a few laughs with his stir-crazy enthusiasm for his new gang, but Bee's usefulness to the story is spent immediately, turning what could have been an effective cameo into a distraction from the more prominent bots.
Well, that's not true either, because Bumblebee is there first off, Bumblebee's presence in the movie is he's what we call I got alcohol going in my brain and I forgot the word. He is the upside down world character, the Act 2 character. If you're familiar with the 3-act structure, he is the upside down world character. A little bit of a crash course on the 3-act structure. You have your Act 1 characters, which is the right side up world, the normal world, your characters from the normal world. Then you have your Act 2 characters, which are the underworld characters, the characters from the new world that these characters are exploring. See, Megatron and Optimus, or rather D16 and Orion and Elita, they are Act 1 characters. Bumblebee, Sentinel Prime, and Alpha Trion and Arachnid, those are Act 2 characters. Those are upside down world characters. The Act 1 characters tend to be a bit more simple than the Act 2 characters. And the Act 2 characters kind of allude to a different world. And that's what Bumblebee does, is that Bumblebee's presence in the movie shows you that this world is a bit more complicated than you thought. Because in the movie proper, D16 and Orion didn't know that there were more sublevels after sublevel 40, because B127 is on sublevel 50. So that's a red flag. It lets you know that something is not right in the system. Something is corrupt. Something is not right. Something is hidden in shroud and in darkness, right? Someone is lying, basically. So his presence is the first hint that something is not right. And then that later in the movie, when you get to this scene where Sentinel and D16 are like having a go at it, where D16 is like, I'm not going to kneel to you. I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet. I am in defiance of you. And Sentinel just starts whooping him. He just starts beating him. Like he etches Megatronus Prime's face onto his chest with a knife, right? With a sword. Because Megatronus Prime's face is the Decepticon logo, you know. And B, in this instance, he becomes what your average, very scared person would be. And he's the person that tells the person that's defying, hey man, stay down. I don't want to see you get hurt. Stay down. Because, let's be real, your average person is going to be fucking scared shitless in a situation where he might get executed. So he's going to be like, dude, I don't want you to get executed. Please stop. Right? That's B in that situation. And then, of course, you can't knock the fact that a comic relief character is kind of important for a movie like this that can get kind of dark while also being appropriate for kids. You need that comic relief character that, you know, can help transition into a new segment of the movie. Because this is something I learned writing my 3rd book, is that you need to have that comic relief. You know, it can't just be dark, 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 just punching you in the face over and over again. You got to have that comic relief. And B is a good like conduit for that comic relief, because he is a character that they've written to naturally be that zany kind of like out of control, socially awkward, not socially awkward, but socially maladjusted character, because it makes sense for him to be socially maladjusted. So he adds what I think is rather natural comedy, because that's just who he is. He's not well adjusted to social situations. And with the, like, you know, stuff like the knife hands and the, you know, the battle mask, he thinks it's cool because he never thought he was ever going to be anything more than a guy that was just sorting trash in the basement of the basement. So Bumblebee, and the thing is, I'm not even going to be 100% in disagreement with this point. I don't know what disagreement was, but I'm not 100% disagreeing that Bumblebee is probably the weakest part of this movie, but he's not just there. He has a utility.
Most of Transformers 1's humor is pretty basic, broad enough for everyone to be in on the joke, but generally nothing that rises above quippy, robot-themed banter.
Let me explain to you what the very first joke of this movie is. because the very first joke of this movie is probably more clever than any joke in any of the Michael Bay movies. Because what the joke is that Orion Pax gets caught in the archives and the guards catch him, right? They say, "Ha, you can't even transform." And then Orion says, "Oh yeah." And then he starts to like shift. You get these close-ups of him shifting his body like he's about to transform, and then it just smash cuts to him running away, which is, not only is it funny, because that shit had me laughing for like 5 minutes. That shit was hilarious. But it's also a clever subversion. I know, subversion, but it's a clever subversion of, you know, what you see in typical Transformers movies, where you get the close-ups, and even Michael Bay did this, where you get the close-ups of the different body parts shifting so that you can get an idea that they're transforming. But in this situation, it's a clever little subversion where it's like, haha, I got you. I can't transform. So that one joke is probably smarter than all of the jokes in all of the Michael Bay movies. And there's a few more of that. There's a few more of them like that. Like, for example, one that got into the trailer that you are not going to appreciate unless you really think about it is the joke where Shockwave seems to be irrationally upset about Bumblebee being a chatterbox. And he says, like, he seems to be irrationally upset, and he was talking while he was unconscious, and then Shockwave says, especially when he was unconscious. And the funniest thing about that is that if you understand Shockwave as a character, you understand why that made him so irrationally upset. Because Bumblebee chattering while he's unconscious is illogical. It should not be happening. And if you know Shockwave, you know logic is essentially his god. He is a very logical individual. So when something is not logical, it gets under his skin. So that joke is really funny. For, like, you know, if you really sit down and think about it, right? This idea that all the jokes are just dumb kids jokes that are, you know, that everyone will laugh at. Nah. Although there is some stuff like that where, like, there's a line that I was thinking about today where D16 says, "I'm not the traitor, you are." And then Sentinel Prime just says, "Nuh-uh." And that joke should not be that funny, but it's hilarious.
The shortest end of the characterization stick goes to Johansson's Elita-One.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Here we go. This is when this review got really annoying.
The Black Widow star has done well in plenty of voice roles. Her and the Jungle Book immediately come to mind. But Elita is drawn here as a caricature of a girl boss, devoid of any real personality traits other than stern.
Let's see. What did you rate Horizon Zero Dawn? Just quick question. Horizon Zero Dawn. Oh, you rated Horizon Zero Dawn as a 9.3 out of 10. When that game is the very definition of a girl boss game. Oh yeah, what did you rate She-Hulk? She-Hulk, 8 out of 10. A show that is all about girl bosses. What did you rate Birds of Prey? Oh, you rated Birds of Prey 8 out of 10. Another girl boss movie. But this time is the one time you've got a problem with girl boss shit. I find that to be richer than white chocolate, my guy. Richer than Donald Trump before he became president. That shit is hilarious. You got some fucking nerve, IGN. And then on top of the fact that you're not taking into consideration what the movie told us about Elita-One, is that Elita-One comes across as a girl boss and hyper competent because she takes her job more seriously than even D16. She was above D16 and Orion Pax before she got demoted. She takes her job very seriously, which explains why she's so hyper competent. But nah. It's kind of like hello? Oh, it's kind of like where we were in this phase where everyone was just shitting on Sonic because it was cool. It's kind of like that with Transformers now, where we're just shitting on Transformers because people think it's cool. Not because it's valid, but because it's cool. Even though the criticisms that you lay at the feet of Transformers, you could lay at every other fucking franchise, but we're not going to talk about that.
But Elita is drawn here as a caricature of a girl boss, devoid of any real personality traits other than stern.
Oh, wait, I forgot about that. Other than stern. He says devoid of any personality traits other than stern, while showing the clip of Elita-One being extremely excited because she can transform now. She is elated in this scene because she's like, holy shit, I was given the gift of something I never thought I was ever going to have, and I'm absolutely excited out of my fucking mind, dude. You showed this clip. You unironically showed this clip while saying that she has no personality other than being stern. And then there's the scene where she's horrified when D16 is about to become Megatron and he executes Sentinel Prime. She's horrified by this. Then there's the scene where she needs to give Optimus a pep talk, and she has a sense of humility. I mean, yeah, she starts the speech with "I'm better than you," but it ends with her saying, "You're better than me in this one thing." And she has a bit of humility in that scene. She is more than just stern. Seriously, like, it feels like this person did not watch this movie. It feels like they were checking their phone throughout the entire 1 hour and 45-minute runtime, dude. And here's what I think happened, is that they were checking their phone the entire time, thinking it was like a kid's movie or something. And then Megatron gets to the part where he says, "I want to kill him," right? And then he looks at the screen and pays attention. And then once that scene is over, he goes back to his phone, because it genuinely does not feel like he was paying attention to this movie.
Playing one of the only 2 female Cybertronians in the movie, the other being a angry spider lady, so take that for what it's worth.
I mean, yeah, that's Arachnid. I will say one of the criticisms I have is that Arachnid is kind of painfully boring in this movie, but that's only because I know what she could be, and that is her Transformers Prime iteration. That version of Arachnid is... Man, she is a vibe, dude. Man, that is one of the coolest female Transformers in the entire franchise, dude. And when you put her up against Transformers 1 Arachnid, yeah, it's kind of hard to follow up after Transformers Prime Arachnid.
Is an unenviable position for Johansson, and it basically forces her to shout at the boys to stop them from getting into trouble for the entire runtime.
I mean, as I said, she is the hyper-competent one that takes her job seriously. So she's hyper-focused. Come on, it's literally right in front of you. I can't do the thinking for you, my guy.
The sun slipping below the horizon may be the coolest shot pulled off by director Josh Cooley, and I promise I haven't forgotten to include transforming robots in that calculation.
I feel like I don't want to use this card, but I do genuinely kind of feel like you kind of went into this movie wanting to not like it. That's what it kind of sounds like, because this dude's kind of just making stuff up. Like stuff that's just verifiably false. So I don't know what's going on here.
On the musical front, Brian Tyler's score unfortunately barely registers. It's generically orchestral with rote touches of electronica that elevate neither the drama or action.
Which is, I call hella bullshit. Because if you actually, like, there are people that actually, listen to music outside of the movies. Because a lot of people, when they say, "Oh, that movie had great music," they mean that movie had catchy, memorable music. Because not all great music is memorable in terms of like, I can hum it, do 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 do, which is what he's gonna compare this to next. But like, just because you can't remember it doesn't mean it's not good. Like, I can't remember most of the music from Oppenheimer or Interstellar, but those scores are amazing. A little bit of a backstory. In a previous life, I used to be in band. I used to be in marching band, orchestral band. I used to be in band, right? I used to play an instrument. So I have an ear for this kind of stuff, especially in this movie, because in this movie, there are several times where Brian Tyler like calls back to previous Transformers movies, even the not good ones. There is a callback to The Last Night in the score of Transformers 1. We Have to Go from The Last Night gets a callback in Transformers 1, and it was just crazy to hear it. And then the Transformers Prime theme song gets a callback in Transformers 1. So yeah, if you actually had an ear for these things, you would be able to appreciate these songs besides just going like, I can actually hear the melody and I remember it. Like, okay, great, fantastic. I remember the music in the Marvels, and it's not good. Especially like the scene in Transformers 1 where Optimus gets like baptized basically into being Optimus Prime. The music in that scene. The music in that scene, dude.
And that's a little bit surprising because Brian Tyler actually turned in one of my favorite animated movie scores of the last few years. He did the score for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which was a really, really good mix of staying true to the game music and kind of making it come alive for a movie.
Which is funny because, like, that's exactly what I said, is that, like, you're only saying, like, the music in that movie is good because it sounds like the games. But if you actually knew anything about the Transformers music, you would know that there are songs from the Transformers series in this movie. On top of the fact, I mean, I haven't seen the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but the music in and of itself in Transformers 1 is just good regardless of if you know anything about Transformers. It's just good music. Just like Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 has a fantastic score. It doesn't really call back to anything from the previous games, in all honesty. But it's still good. Just because you don't remember it doesn't mean it's not good.
And that just doesn't happen here. Tyler's score in Transformers 1 is just background music. It may as well not be there.
I feel like that's a gigantic insult. That's a gigantic insult to the music in this movie. Just go listen to the soundtrack of this movie. That's an insult.
Setting the story entirely on Cybertron raises the question of how well a Transformers movie can function without humans there to draw contrast to the future Autobots and Decepticons.
I don't even know what to say to this one. It's just like, what? Why are you begging for humans? We've been asking for like a decade and a half for a Transformers movie that doesn't have humans. We finally get it, and you're complaining about the fact that there are no humans in this movie. Oh, but Alastor, how do you know he's complaining about the lack of humans? You'll see, watch.
It's not just because of the logical quandaries that abound, like why it is that Orion Pax can turn into a big rig billions of years before any sort of truck would be invented on a planet light years away from Cybertron.
Oh, I'm so tired of answering this question, dude. Guys. Stop asking this question. Why is it that they could transform into Earth vehicles? They're not transforming into Earth vehicles. They're transforming into Cybertronian vehicles that your brain recognizes as an Earth vehicle. You recognize it as an Earth truck, but it's not an Earth truck. It's a Cybertronian vehicle. As we see in this universe, they have vehicles and they transform into vehicles. There are such things as Cybertronian vehicles.
You might not be thinking about these kinds of things, but I definitely do.
You clearly didn't think about it much because the answer was already there. You just didn't know it was there.
Transformer 1's entire sense of perspective suffers from not having meatbags around for scale. It's a problem from the opening moments, when we see Orion Pax climbing up a building to sneak into an archive for information on the Lost Primes. He's quickly caught by guards who are much bigger than him, but how big is Orion to begin with? The scale issue is at its most egregious during Transformers 1's chases, races, and all-out robot warfare.
Why are you concerned about the scale of these characters? The only scale that really matters is our main characters who can't transform and the characters who can. And there's a sizable size difference. That was kind of redundant, but there is a big size difference between the non-transforming Transformers, or the non-transforming Cybertronians, and the transforming Cybertronians. We don't need any scale besides that. The transforming Cybertronians are bigger than the non-transforming ones because they are in a higher part of society. It's really that simple. Like that, making the miners and the lower class Transformers smaller is meant to show how much of a disadvantage they're at in this society. Which can really be used as like a commentary on the larger message of this movie, but I digress.
The action may be flashy and fast-paced, but good luck keeping track of what's actually going on.
Skill issue.
While the most famous Transformers silhouettes are all stark and in keeping with what you'd imagine those characters to look like, the action is largely captured by the virtual camera in a way that turns everything into a blur of nondescript robot bodies crashing against alien landscapes and architecture.
Skill issue.
Having any means of comparison becomes critical in these moments as you're trying to understand things like where your heroes are, how fast they're going, and who's fighting who, what direction they're going. Basics that Transformers 1 doesn't always account for.
Scale. In keeping up things, like when the Bayverse had so many different Transformers at so many different sizes, scale is really not that big of an issue when you really think about it. What's more important is silhouettes and color schemes. That's more important when it comes to keeping up with what's going on in this movie. That's it. Like, scale is not that big of a deal, especially when you get to later in the movie where all of the people that are fighting in these scenes, they're all about the same size. So scale isn't really that big of a deal. You just look at it the same way you look at a movie with two random motherfuckers fighting each other. What is this? What is this? No. What is this complaint? When you really think about it, this complaint doesn't make any fucking sense. What is this complaint? I need the scale. Nobody complains about scale when you see Thor and Gore. Their names rhyme? But nobody complains when you see Thor and Gore fighting each other and they're like the same height. Nobody complains about that. Why are we complaining about this right now in a Transformers movie? Two people are the same size. Oh, I can't understand what's going on. Like, what the fuck is this?
There are times when the battles feel like a kid slamming two Transformers toys together, and I say that with the lived experience of having done the very same with my Beast Wars, Rat Trap, and Cheetor toys as a kid. But at least in that instance, I could keep track of what was going on, who was involved, what was at stake, and where my fruit roll-up was in relation to the plastic carnage. Sadly, you can't always say the same for Transformers 1. You will lose your fruit roll-up from time to time.
That sounds like a skill issue, again.
Though the tragedy of Optimus Prime and Megatron's storied rivalry could have felt larger than life, Transformers 1 is mostly content with half-hearted puns and barely legible Cybertronian battles.
Puns? Where are there puns in this movie? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's no puns in this movie. What are you talking about? Like, no, seriously. Did we watch the same fucking movie? It genuinely feels like the guy that reviewed this movie did not watch the same movie that we watched. I feel like the people that watched the movie, we watched a different movie. Either we watched a different movie or he wasn't paying attention. Because I have no idea what the fuck he was watching. I don't know. I don't understand how you could have these criticisms if you were paying attention.
Transformers 1 is mostly content with half-hearted puns and barely legible Cybertronian battles that could have used some major transforming before, say it with me, rolling out.
Look, that's Starscream, and you're Shockwave and Soundwave. Enough! Gosh, raise your hand if Wave is in your name. There's a lot of Wave.
Is that what you think a pun is? Oh, he pointed out that a lot of characters have the name Wave in their name. They have the word Wave in their name. Ooh, that's not a pun. They're not playing off of that. That's just a joke that, like, there are a lot of characters that have Wave in their name. What was this video, bro? What was this review? A part of me deep down inside almost feels like this was a waste of fucking time because this was genuinely universally panned as a review. I don't know. I genuinely don't understand what was this review. Like, the number of things they just got fucking wrong, all right, was just shocking. They just got it wrong. Like, saying, like, the Elita-One thing really got under my skin because it was like, you let all these other girl bosses run rampant, but this one you have a problem with. And even then, she's not a girl boss. They actually explain why she's so hyper competent in what she does. It's not a direct explanation, like, exposition, but you can tell from her personality why she would be so hyper competent in what she does. I don't know, man. Look, don't listen to this review. IGN doesn't know what they're talking about. You can't spell ignorant without IGN, okay? Because this movie is great. Just go see it. And the thing is, I haven't spoiled everything. Just go see it. If you for some reason stayed here and watched this video after the spoiler warning, go see it. I haven't spoiled everything. Just go see it. I almost guarantee you are going to like this movie. All right. If you don't like it, then I'm sorry, but I thought you would like it. That's gotta count for something, right? But yeah, oh man, I gotta go. I gotta go before my blood pressure rises. Oh, IGN, go fuck yourselves. don't ever review a movie ever again. I'm gonna finish the rest of the Smirnoff Ice Screwdriver Zesty Orange, natural orange flavor Smirnoff premium malt beverage with natural flavors and certified and caramel color. What the fuck is this word salad on the front of this bottle? Anyway, I'm gonna finish this drink and I don't know. Let me also update you guys. The Age of Extinction video, the rough draft is complete. We are looking at about 5 hours and 40 minutes of content, probably a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, we'll see. Just be on the lookout for that within the next month. It should be done really soon. Like, within the month. Within, like, I'd say by this time next month, that video will be done. So, stay tuned. Yeah, I'm not going to plug anything this time. I'm just going to drink. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, check out this video. The algorithm says you'll like it. See ya.